Joseph Antoine de Potter was a Belgian journalist who became a famous politician and literature author. Out of the more than 100 books and pamphlets, one of the most notable works was his famous Letter to My Fellow Citizens, in which he promoted more democracy, universal electoral rights and a Belgian unity of strengths between liberals and Catholics. As one of the heroes of the Belgian Revolution, he proclaimed the independence of Belgium from the Netherlands, and inaugurated the first Belgian parliamentary assembly, on behalf of the Belgian provisional government. He belonged to a rich noble family which sought asylum in Germany after the Second French invasion of the southern Netherlands in 1794 and remained there until the Consulate. This meant that Louis' education in Bruges remained largely incomplete, and so he restarted it during the family's time abroad, wanting to learn Latin, ancient Greek and modern languages. He spent 12 years in Italy to study the history of the Roman Catholic Church, though he studied it with the prejudices which predominated in Enlightenment thoughts. He then discovered the foundations of the reforms made in the aristocratic republics of Italy and those of the Revolution for the French Republic. In 1816 he had already published his Considerations sur l'histoire des principaux conciles depuis les apôtres jusqu'aux grands schismes d'Occident. In 1821, he completed this first work with another in 6 volumes, titled L'Esprit de l'Église aux Considérations sur l'histoire des conciles et des papes, depuis Charlemagne jusqu'à nos jours. During his stay in Florence, he had access to the archives and library of Bishop Ricci, minister councillor of the Grand Duke of Habsburg. It was there that he gathered the materials for a third work, Vida Scipione de Ricci, avec de Pistoire et de Prato. This was published in 1825, and was immediately translated into German and English. The author's aim in this work was to glorify Josephinism, the justification of the reforms carried out in Tuscany under the auspices of Grand Duke Pietro Leopold I of Tuscany, brother of Joseph II. After a long residence in Germany, France, and Italy, he returned to Brussels in 1824. Initially very satisfied to see the northern and southern Netherlands united under the rule of William of Nassau, he wrote, "I thank fate for destining me to live under liberal political institutions, which, by the principles of moderation and equity, put no barrier in the way of thought." After his father's death, he left Bruges and settled in Brussels, but did not reassume the title to which his noble blood entitled him. Even so, he had to get a job and was on very good terms with the whole cabinet, or at least with the head of the Department of the Interior, Pierre van Gobelschroy, his former classmate. De Potter began his political career as editor of the liberal opposition journal Le Courrier des Pays-Bas. He deployed his verve as a polemicist against the Catholic clergy, the aristocracy and William I's government. One of his articles, published on the 8th of November 1828, was a violent pamphlet against the king's ministers and marked their journal's rallying to the cause of unionism. Minister of Justice Cornelis van Manen hounded de Potter for this opposition to William's government, and finally had him found guilty on 20 December 1828, condemning him to 18 months' detention and a fine of 1,000 florins. On the 8th of January 1830, William I revoked their job and pension of all members of the Belgian Estates General who opposed his policies. De Potter was then still in prison, and launched the idea of a national subscription to compensate deputies and civil servants who had fallen prey to this measure. The Van Manen continued to hound de Potter, this time for plotting fighting against the state and exciting revolt, and so on the 30th of April 1830 he was sentenced to an 8-year exile by the Brussels Court of Assize for publications composed in prison, such as the pamphlet on the union of the Catholics and Liberals. He thought of spending his exile in France, but this country refused to welcome him, and so he ended up in Prussia until the July Revolution, when France did allow him in. After the Belgian Revolution, he returned to Brussels and was a member of the provisional government. In it he was given the specific task of planning the basic laws for the new state of Belgium. On the 10th of November he pronounced the opening of the National Congress of Belgium, in favor of a republican regime. After the Congress pronounced itself in favor of a constitutional monarchy on the 13th of November 1830, he returned to private life, and upon the provisional government's downfall he withdrew to France. Works: Considerations sur l'histoire des principaux conciles depuis les apôtres jusqu'aux grands schismes d'Occident, 1816. L'esprit de l'Église aux Considérations sur l'histoire des conciles et des papes, depuis Charlemagne jusqu'à nos jours, 6 volumes, 1821. Vida Scipien de Ricci, avec de Pistoire et de Prato, 1825. Saint Napoléon en Paradis et en Exil, 1825. Lettre de Saint Pie sur les affaires religieuses en France, 1826. L'Union des Catholiques et des libéraux dans les Pays-Bas. Lettre de Dame Farley van Gobelschroy sur la garantie de la liberté des Belges à l'époque de la ouverture de la session des États généraux. Lettre de Dame Farley sur le nouveau projet de loi contre la presse et le message royal qui l'accompagne, 1829. Correspondance de Potter avec Thielemans depuis la prison des Petits Carmes, Brussels, 1829. Lettre ames concitoyens, Brussels, 1830. De la Révolution affaire de prise l'expérience des révolutions avortées. Elements de tolérance l'usage des catholiques belges. Questions aux catholiques belges sur l'encyclique de M. de la Mene. Histoire du christianisme. Résumé de l'histoire du christianisme. La Révolution belge de 1828 et 1839. Souvenirs personnels. Études sociales. La justice et la sanction religieuse. La réalité déterminée par le raisonnement. ABC de la science sociale. Catéchisme social. Catéchisme rational. Dictionary rational.